Okay, so I found a video that I was like, okay, I know this is probably propaganda, but I have to check it out anyway, because I've not heard of any of this, and it wasn't like a source that I had come across before or seen it. So it's from AMTV, which I'm not really sure what that is or what they're associated with, but they had an opening clip that had RTV on it, or RTTV on it, so I'm guessing it has something to do with that. Anyways, the title of the video is Breaking: Trump Forming Wartime Cabinet in Preparation for Iran Conflict. And I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck are these people talking about? Iran conflict. And so I watched the video, and they're starting to talk about John Bolton. And they're basically claiming that Trump is trying to start a new Nazi revolution, essentially, or whatever. And so I'm like, oh my god. And then they go on to say that John Bolton is trying to expand the axis of evil. And I'm just like, what the fuck are these people talking about? I don't know enough about any of this shit. So I decided to do a quick Wikipedia search on John Bolton, because that's the fastest way to just get a feel for what's going on, even if I don't necessarily trust Wikipedia. And so the first thing it says, essentially, is that he's a nationalist and he's conservative. He is an American diplomat, an attorney, a national security advisor designate of the United States. The Wikipedia also sits here and compares his nationalist and conservative beliefs to that of the current president, Donald Trump. So they're trying to say, look, this guy's a nationalist, he's a conservative, he's a Nazi. Like, no, I don't think you understand what a Nazi is, honey. A Nazi is a National Socialist. John Bolton, I don't think is. And I'm going to get into why I think Trump actually has appointed him as the National Security Advisor, which he's going to take office on April 9th, 2018. So we'll get into that in a minute, why I think he has been appointed. Okay, so what else does it say? Bolton is a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. I don't think you understand what Nazism if you think that somebody who supports the American Enterprise Institute would... I mean, he's a capitalist. He is not a socialist. Like, holy shit. Anyway, he was a foreign policy advisor to Mitt Romney in 2012. He has run a number of political conservative think tanks. He, I guess, has been part of several different interest groups like East-West Dynamics, which I'm not sure what that is, and the National Rifle Association, which, I mean, if Trump is appointing somebody who has been a part of the National Rifle Association, especially when the Second Amendment is under attack, I'm not against that. The U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, Project for the New American Century, a Jewish Institute for National Security of America. Okay, this is another reason I don't think he's a fucking Nazi. Committee for Peace and Security in the Gulf, and let's see, Council for National Policy, and the Gatestone Institute. Yeah. John Bolton has been called a war hawk and advocate for the regime change in Iran and North Korea. And this is where I think it comes into why he's actually here. I don't think he's here for Iran. I think right now the main focus is probably not Iran, although you might see some butt fuckery going on with him and Iran, considering that that has been one of his targets in the past, and maybe not for a bad reason. I mean, he wants to terminate the Iran deal, which, okay, that was a bad deal to begin with. Like all the deals that I've read that he's wanted to end it, all the stuff he's wanted to end it is, like, for the most part, I've agreed with him. He was a supporter of the Iraq War, so that's a negative, and continues to support his decisions. But, you know, he has his own ideas about what happened. I don't know. He has continuously supported military action and regime change in Syria, Libya, and Iran. Not great. He has been labeled a neoconservative, so yeah, he's a basic neoconservative war hawk. However, Bolton rejects the term, claiming he does not focus on democracy promotion. I don't know what that even means. Okay, so this is part of what I found interesting. Under Secretary of State, it goes into several things. A lot of it I don't know enough about. Like, he was instrumental in derailing a 2001 biological weapons conference in Geneva, convened to endorse a UN proposal to enforce the 1972 Biological Weapons Convention. U.S. officials, led by Bolton, argued that the plan would have put U.S. national security at risk by allowing spot inspections of suspected U.S. weapon sites, despite the fact that the U.S. claims not to have carried out any research for offensive purposes since 1969. Like, that's such a short clip, and it has so much jam-packed into it, that it's like, okay, there's absolutely no context for that for me to even know what's going on. Like, I would have to go and really know, like, what he was thinking. And then the next thing it says is Bolton in 2002 gave a speech entitled Beyond the Axis of Evil in response to President Bush's State of the Union address. In it, he added 3 more nations to be grouped with the aforementioned rogue states, Cuba, Libya, and Syria. The criteria for inclusion in these groupings were state sponsors of terrorism, I mean, that's true, that are pursuing or who have the potential to pursue weapons of mass destruction or have the capability to do so in violation of their treaty obligations. Also, in 2002, Bolton is said to have flown to Europe to demand the resignation of some person who is head of the Organization of Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. I have no idea why this person did it, but apparently the UN was really pissed off, and they called it an unacceptable violations of principles protecting the international civil servants. Why do we have principles protecting international civil servants? I mean, why would you have principles protecting civil servants? I think somebody can get fired for doing a bad job. Come on, people. I don't know. He also pushed for reduced funding in the non-cooperative threat reduction program to halt proliferation of nuclear materials. At the same time, he was involved in the implementation of proliferation security initiative, working with a number of countries to intercept the trafficking of weapons of mass destruction in materials for use in building nuclear weapons. So, I don't know. it's a hard thing to know what's actually going on with the whole weapons of mass destruction thing in Bolton, just from a quick read from this. Okay, so he seems to be fairly experienced. You know, like, this is a man who has had a lot of experience. Okay, so next it goes into diplomacy, and I found this section interesting too. According to an article in the New Republic, Bolton was highly successful in pushing his agenda, but his bluntness has won him many enemies. Iran's foreign ministry has called Bolton rude and undiplomatic. In response to critics, Bolton states that his record demonstrates clear support for effective multilateral diplomacy. Bush administration officials have stated that his past statements would allow him to negotiate from a powerful position. It's like the Palestinians having to negotiate with Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. If you have a deal, you know you have a deal, an anonymous official told CNN. He also won widespread praise for his work establishing the Proliferation Security Initiative and a voluntary agreement supported by 60 countries. Okay, so what I hear in this section is basically Bolton's like Trump in his approach to negotiation, and Trump is a negotiator. Like, when I read the statement that the Bush administrations liked him because he could negotiate from a powerful position, that's like a eureka moment for me. I'm like, that's what Trump's going to be using him for. Like, he's a you want to say he's a war hawk, but what I think is he's actually pretty woke. And I say that because of this next section. Bolton spawned controversy when, in a 2003 speech cleared by the State Department, he described North Korean leader Kim Jong-il, who is Kim Jong-un's daddy, who's now dead, as a tyrannical dictator, and saying that for North Koreans under Kim's rule, life is a hellish nightmare. He's fucking woke, man. In response, a North Korean spokesman said, "Such human scum and bloodsucker is not entitled to take part in the talks." It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You guys are a tyrannical dictatorship. You literally starve your people to death. It's disgusting. Congressional Democrats argue that Bolton's words at the time were undiplomatic and endangered the talks. Bolton later wrote that he had been looking for a hammer to shatter the Clinton administration's 1994 agreed framework with North Korea. If you remember, that's when the Clinton administration gave North Korea nuclear material. And you're thinking, why would they do this? I don't know. They did the same thing with Iran, too, I'm pretty sure. An implement he found when the country's uranium enrichment program came to light. So what North Korea did was they took the uranium from the Clinton administration, which was supposed to be for nuclear reactors so they could have free energy or whatever the fuck. Instead of that, they were like, we're gonna make bombs out of this shit. Critics argued that Bolton's record of allegedly politicizing intelligence would harm U.S. credibility in the United Nations. Okay, what I get out of that is they don't like the fact that Bolton wants to be a little bit more transparent in what's going on and wants to actually tell the U.S. population what's happening. President Bush said he wanted John Bolton because he can get the job done at the United Nations. Bolton recalls that the happiest moment at state was personally unsigning the Roman statute, which had been set up which had set up the International Criminal Court, which I guess basically what happened was basically it was an opposition on constitutional grounds. They didn't want like U.S. citizens to be able to be tried and courts not recognized by the United States or whatever. And so, I mean, I don't think that this guy is the Nazi that people are making him out to be. I think that maybe he is a little bit of a neoconservative war hawk, but at the same time, he's apparently an effective cudgel. Like, we have had a president after George W. Bush who was even less effective than George W. Bush. Like, and who the fuck knows what sort of limitations were placed upon this guy, you know, even under George Bush's run. And like, I don't think you people understand. Like, at this point, I'm legitimately worried about us going to, like, war and shit. The one thing I can maybe agree on with the people who made this video is they said that Trump is trying to set up a wartime cabinet, essentially. And that might be right. I mean, North Korea is a dictatorship. John Bolton's pretty woke on that, and apparently he's fairly competent at his job, which is why the Bush administration really liked him. Because despite the Bush's incompetency, John Bolton at least wasn't, you know? Like, he could get the job that he was required to do done. Now, hopefully, he doesn't start anything with fucking Iran or Syria, because we don't need to be involved in any more conflicts. But at this point, maybe it's time to humanely end the North Korean regime and free the North Koreans from that dictatorship. And at a certain point, you wonder, you go, is there any way to fucking avoid North Korea and a conflict with North Korea? Like, these people are idiots for thinking it has anything to do with Iran right now. I mean, from my understanding, I haven't heard a lot of stuff about Iran, which I'm not saying that Iran's not an issue. They probably are. But I don't think they're as big of an issue as North Korea. War with North Korea, with how provocative they are, may be unavoidable. It just might be, you know? Like, at this point, there's no doubt that North Korea is a dictatorship. There's just no doubt in my mind. And so maybe to have a national security advisor who is pretty woke on that and who wants to destroy a dictatorship and free the people and stuff like that, you know, I don't call that guy a Nazi. I don't call that guy a bad guy. You know what I mean? I think if we are so close to war, which we really are, it's like, I'd rather have someone like that there. You know, you want the guy who's competent, who knows about war, who's been there before, who's fought before. I just wish we didn't have to fight anymore. But unfortunately, the fact is that, like, with Iran, with North Korea, with any of these countries throughout the world, the reason why things are as bad as they are is because we've allowed it to happen. And not only that, we've exacerbated those problems. Like, one of the things that stands out to me is that he wants to destroy the things that the Clinton administration did before him. And people were calling him undiplomatic and shit, and he was just like, I don't fucking care. Like, that's the type of politician, or the type of guy I want in a situation of war, you know what I mean? And there's evidence that the North Koreans have tested a hydrogen bomb. Do you get that? Do you know how significant that is? That's not small. Like, the magnitude of that bomb is huge. they're getting up there, and it wouldn't surprise me if it tied back to Pakistan too. And here's the other thing that the video said, which I actually do agree with too. Bolton said that, according to that video that I watched, the propaganda video, that it all ties back to the Middle East. And that's true, because I'm sure North Korea is probably doing business with Pakistan. They have minerals. Pakistan has weapons and material. And so you also have to think that with all the sanctions on Russia, maybe Russia's doing some trading with North Korea. Maybe that's why we recently kicked out 60 diplomats from our country. That's possible, right? Like, there's a lot of shit going on right now in our world, and we are in such an unstable position that maybe right now we need that type of person. Like, I don't like the fact that we're here. But the fucking Clinton administration didn't fix it. The Bush administration didn't fix it. The fucking Obama administration didn't fix it. All of those administrations just made the fucking situation worse. And so Trump has walked into a situation where everything is so much more broken than I think he even could have possibly imagined. And so the media is sitting there not even talking about real shit. They're sitting there obsessing about, like, Stormy Daniels and fucking shit like that. And I go, Dad, did you hear about the Telford grooming gang? And he's like, no. I'm like, how do you not hear about that? It's been all over YouTube, and it's just like, sorry, it's just priorities, and it's, I don't know. I'm tired of getting, like, told that Americans are evil and shit. It's like, this is the best country. People flee here. Flee to here. People don't actually run away from here. They don't actually move to Canada when Trump gets elected. They still look at Canada and go, nah, I'm not moving to that shithole. This is way better here. Not that Canada's a shithole, just, like, in comparison to the United States, like, no one would want to leave the United States, just in general. Like, you might be an extremist who's, like, really hateful of the United States and decide that you really want to leave, but, like, in general, no. In general, people don't leave the United States. Usually this is where they flee to, not from. Unless they're going home because they can't make it here, which unfortunately happens less and less because we tend to put those people on welfare instead, because the Democrats like those people for voters. And then they wonder why those people don't participate in our society. Anyway, my whole point with this is that we are extremely close to something that could blow up into something dramatically large. And yeah, maybe Trump is starting to get together his wartime cabinet or whatever. I don't know that it's avoidable at this point. And the thing is that you have to understand the history of the United States, and you have to understand the history of these last several administrations to understand how we got here. And how we got here has been a lot of bad deals and a lot of inaction. A lot of red lines that, when crossed, were not fucking dealt with. How many red lines has Iran crossed? How many lines has North Korea crossed? That we were like, if you cross this line, we're going to do something to you. And what happens? Nothing. Nothing ever fucking happens. And so it's metastasized to something so fucking bad that, like maybe the only solution at this point is war, because what the fuck else are you gonna do? I hope to hell it doesn't fucking turn nuclear. I want to get out of the city. I want to get towards, the countryside, get away from the coast. I want to go east. I say that with, like, all honesty, because it's really scary being here, you know, with, you know, I know war is, like, looming on the other side. We're just so close. And the sad thing is like, nobody wants this. Nobody here wants to go back to war. Like, we've been at war for the past century, you know? It's like, let us just stop. Can we just stop? And I say that, and I'm not even being dramatic. Like World War I, World War II, and then I think it was the Korean War, followed by the Vietnam War, I want to say, and then you have, what was it? I don't know. You have lots of little proxy wars and stuff all over the place. And then I guess the next major conflict that I know about would probably be the Gulf War. But, like, even then, I'm sure there was probably something in between. And then after the Gulf War, we get a little bit of a reprieve. But then you go straight back into the Gulf War again with George W. Bush starting the Iraq War. And then from there, we have not had a moment's peace from war. You know, 9/11 happened in 2001. I wasn't even 10 years old yet. I'm 25 now. We've been at war for so fucking long that all of my adult life, the U.S. has been at war. And not even to mention the fucking Cold War. Like that hasn't even ended, you know? Like, that's still going on, and it's getting colder. It's like, I don't know, maybe bringing somebody who wants to bring shit out into the open, bring shit out into the light, and actually deal with it, and do something with it, and actually maybe deal with these problems? I don't know, but the world is a really untenable situation. And it's a hard fact to escape. I don't think the doomsday preppers are so crazy. I think that it's very possible that nuclear war is on the other side of the horizon. I mean, what did you people give our generation? I'm 25. I'm still trying to figure out how to navigate the world. And this is what I'm gonna have to bring my children into. You guys are assholes. You guys invented the fucking atomic bomb, let everybody get it, and then did nothing to stop dangerous, tyrannical dictators from getting it. And then let it metastasize into a cancer, and now we're afraid to cut it out because it's gotten so bad. And it's the same thing with the Islam problem in Europe. It's gotten so bad, it's like, how do you cut it out? My suggestion for anybody watching this video would be to get away from whatever big city you live in. Like, if you're near a big city, you're a target. That's just the fact. Wouldn't be saying this if these weren't things that I'm thinking about doing myself, you know, like, I want to get away from the city. I want to get out of, you know, a target zone. You gotta build yourself an ark, and you gotta stay there for 40 days and 40 nights until it stops raining, and then you gotta wait it out. Wait for this flood tides to recede. You know, because that's the way the war works. Go build yourself an ark in the middle of the countryside. Get yourself some cattle. Get yourself some hogs. You know, start breeding your own animals. Start learning how to farm. You know, we're smart people. We can figure this out before shit goes down. You want to be in the countryside, living sustainably before you lose electricity, before we lose communication, before the bombs hit, you know? Like, this is serious. I think one of the most deceptive things that has happened to my generation is that we were allowed to believe for so long that world peace existed. You know, it was like, we live in the United States, nothing bad's gonna happen just in general. Okay, the Uganda genocide, that's one thing that happens. But we've been allowed to believe it's been relatively peaceful just in general until, you know, the Iraq War. Oh, okay, well, the Iraq War's still over on the other side of the ocean. That doesn't really affect us that much, right? And the government is taking care of us and putting more and more restrictions on us, but that's because they care about us, right? And so we've gotten used to the leash of authoritarian control. At the same time, we were told that that was supposed to protect us, and as young children, what else are we supposed to believe? And then we find out that none of their protections and none of their controls help us at all. And we're on the brink of war. Like, literally on the brink of Armageddon. It's really terrifying. I have to bring children into this. This is like crazy. That's why I want to escape to the countryside. You know? Just think about it. Think about where you want to be in 5 years and whether or not you see war on the horizon like I do.